What would you do if your own sister's husband looked you in the eyes, reached for your stomach, and told you you are the woman who is going to give him a son? And then said, if you don't make it easy for him, you'll both die before he gives up. This isn't a horror movie. This is someone's real life. And honestly, the scariest part of this story isn't even him. It's who is protecting him. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we break down the wildest Reddit stories on the internet. The drama, the betrayals, the revenge, the stories that make you question humanity. And today's story? I've covered hundreds of Reddit posts. Hundreds. But this one genuinely scared me. This story starts with a simple question between twin sisters. And it ends with police chases, arrests, death threats, and a family torn completely apart. There are 4 updates, each one more insane than the last. So buckle up. Let's start from the beginning. Our main character, we'll call her OP. She's 30 years old. She's a flight attendant. She's also trying to become a published author. But here's the detail that changes everything about this story. OP has an identical twin sister. We'll call her Stacy. And when I say identical, I mean identical. Same face, same body, same DNA. Now, I need you to remember that detail, because it becomes the entire reason this nightmare begins. But before we get there, there's something else you need to know. Their mother died giving birth to them. She didn't die of natural complications. It was a medical error, a preventable mistake by the hospital. Their father sued and won a substantial settlement. Both sisters have trust funds from that money. But here's the thing about trauma like that. Money doesn't fix it. These 2 girls grew up knowing that their very first breath was their mother's last. And that detail? It shaped these 2 sisters in completely opposite directions. See? Stacy? She became obsessed with motherhood. Even as a kid, she was planning nursery themes, picking baby names, drawing wedding dresses in her diary. It was like she wanted to recreate the family that was taken from her. And OP? She went the complete opposite direction. She never wanted children. Ever. And honestly, can you blame her? When the one example of motherhood you have ended in death. Now, let me introduce the other key players. Stacy married a man named Jeff. They've been together for 8 years. She met him in college, graduated, became a stay-at-home girlfriend, then a stay-at-home wife. She has never worked a day in her life. I'm not judging that choice, but file it away. Because when you understand how dependent she is on this man, everything she does later starts to make sense. Opie has a boyfriend named Mike. 3 years together. And this man honestly becomes one of the only heroes in this entire story. And then there's Dad. Single father. Raised both girls after their mother died. Loves football. And loves his daughters more than anything. Okay, so that's the setup. 2 twin sisters. Opposite personalities. A husband named Jeff. And a family that's about to be ripped apart. Because about 3 weeks before this post, Stacy came over to OP's house and asked her a question that started everything. So picture this. It's a regular evening. Opie and Stacy are hanging out at Opie's place, watching Modern Family, chatting, just sisters being sisters. And then Stacy gets quiet. She tells Opie she has a serious question, and she needs to ask it while she still has the nerve. Now, some context. Before this moment, Stacy has been trying to get pregnant for 5 years. 5 years. She had one pregnancy. It ended in a miscarriage, caused by a car accident that she and her father were in. She was in the front seat, took the brunt of the crash. The accident damaged her body so severely that she can no longer carry a child. They tried IVF, spent thousands, tens of thousands. Nothing worked. They tried egg retrieval. Her eggs weren't viable. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. So after 5 years of failure, Stacy looks at her identical twin sister. Same face, same body, same DNA. And she asks, "Can you be my surrogate?" Now, let me be very clear about something. Asking someone to be your surrogate is not inherently wrong.
It's a huge ask.
But it's not wrong. What happened after the ask? That's where everything goes sideways.
Op Friesisch.
And then she responds honestly. She says, I have never wanted children. I am terrified of pregnancy.
You know this about me.
But she doesn't just say no. She offers an alternative. She tells her sister, take my eggs. All of them. As many as you need. Find a surrogate. I will support you through every step. And Stacy's response? She explodes. Her face goes red. She starts screaming.
Calling Opie jealous.
Calling her hateful. Telling her it's a small task. She says, and I need you to hear this exact energy. If you can't do this one thing for me, how can you ever call yourself my sister? One thing? One thing? She's asking her sister to carry a human being inside her body for 9 months. To undergo hormonal treatments. To risk her life. The same way their mother risked hers. And she calls it one
small thing.
And then, before she storms out, Stacy grabs a framed photo of the two of them. A picture sitting on Opie's mantle. And she smashes it. Nobody is talking about this detail enough. That wasn't just anger. She destroyed a symbol of their sisterhood. Right in front of Opie's face. That's a message. That's her saying, if you don't comply, this is what happens to us. After that, Stacy goes silent. No calls.
No visits.
The only messages she sends? Pictures of her childhood diaries.
Her vision boards.
All the nursery themes and baby names she's been planning since she was a little girl. She's weaponizing her childhood dreams as ammunition. Trying to make Opie feel like she's personally responsible for destroying her sister's future. And, remember?
Opie's boyfriend Mike.
When she goes to him for advice, he tells her he loves her. But he won't tell her what to do. He says it's her sister. He doesn't feel comfortable swaying her either way. And Opie? She's crumbling. She says this is the longest she's ever gone without talking to her twin. The disconnection is causing her physical discomfort. She's leaning toward just giving in. But then, Opie does something smart. She starts researching. And what she discovers changes everything. Now, before I tell you what happened at that family dinner, if you're not subscribed yet, honestly, what are you doing? We cover stories like this every single week. The drama,
the twists,
the updates that make your jaw drop. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Because, trust me, what happens at this dinner? Unhinged.
Okay.
So, Opie does her research, and she finds out something critical. Doctors will not approve her as a surrogate because she has never carried a child to term. That's a standard medical requirement. You cannot be a surrogate if you've never had a successful pregnancy. So, even if Opie said yes, even if she overcame her fear, a doctor would say no. Armed with this information, Opie goes to a family dinner at her dad's house. It's Thursday.
They always watch football together. Dad.
The sisters. They're significant others. And when she walks in, the tension is so thick, she says she could cut it with a butcher knife. Her dad sits everyone down and says, somebody talk. We need to resolve this before the game tomorrow.
Op starts.
She tells Stacy, I've been doing research. I have more concerns now. I need to understand exactly what you're asking me to do. She asks her sister, what does being a surrogate actually look like? What would the process be? And Stacy, instead of answering, just breaks down crying. She says, are you agreeing to it? When Opie says no, I just need details. Stacy falls apart. But here's where it gets deeply disturbing. Opie asks her sister, do you know that a doctor would deny me as a surrogate? Since I've never had a child? And Stacy says yes. She knew that. She knew. And her plan? She wanted Opie and Jeff to go to a fertility clinic, pretend to be a couple, get Opie inseminated with Jeff's child, and then transfer care to Stacy's doctor afterward. I need everyone to fully absorb what was just asked. She wanted her twin sister to walk into a medical facility with her husband, pretend they're in a relationship, and allow him to impregnate her through clinical means. This isn't surrogacy. This is deception. This is medical fraud. This is asking your sister to play wife with your husband. And somehow, OP is the selfish one? The dad steps in. He tells Stacy, asking your sister to do something a doctor wouldn't sign off on is a terrible way to start motherhood. You can tell the father doesn't want to pick sides. He loves both his daughters. But even he knows this is wrong. He asks Stacy, why are you so against a regular surrogate?
What is so important about the DNA?
And that's when Jeff opens his mouth. And what comes out of this man's mouth shifted the entire energy of that room. Don't try to berate my wife with these stupid questions. Talk to your selfish B*TCH of a daughter about why she can't help her sister. He called her a B*TCH in her father's house. At his dinner table, the room erupts. Mike starts yelling at Jeff. The dad tells Jeff he will not disrespect his daughters under his roof. And in the middle of all this chaos, with everyone screaming, Opie says something she had never said out loud before. She said, if I could trade places with you, I would. But I'm scared. And I just don't want to die. That was the first time she ever said it out loud. 30 years of carrying the weight of her mother's death, and it came pouring out in the middle of a family argument. She's not refusing because she's selfish. She's refusing because every single time she thinks about pregnancy, she sees her mother, who went in to give life, and never came out. After this, the dad asks Jeff to leave. He refuses to apologize. But as he's walking out, Stacy asks Opie to come talk on the porch. Just the two of them. And what Stacy reveals on that porch, it changes everything we think we know about the story. So the two sisters step outside. Just them.
No husbands. No dad.
Just twins. Stacy apologizes for Jeff calling Opie a B*TCH. She says they've been on edge. It's been stressful. And Opie says something important. She tells her sister, don't apologize for him. He should be apologizing for himself. She asks Stacy to reconsider. Maybe they can find another way. But Stacy keeps saying, you don't get it. You don't understand. And when Opie pushes, when she asks what she's not understanding, Stacy breaks. She admits that recently at a dinner with Jeff's family, his parents made a joke. They called her a murderer. They were referring to the baby she lost, the miscarriage, the one caused by a car accident that she had no control over. And his family sat at a dinner table, looked at this woman, and called her a murderer. I need to pause here, because the cruelty of that statement is difficult to overstate. This woman lost a child in a traumatic accident. Her body was permanently damaged. She spent 5 years and tens of thousands of dollars trying to have another. And her husband's family, her in-laws, called her a murderer for a miscarriage. But here's the part that made my blood go cold.
Stacy told Opie.
She asked Jeff why he didn't stand up for her, why he didn't defend her when his family said that. And Jeff said, because it was true. He agreed with them. Her husband, the man who stood at an altar and promised to love her, told her that she murdered their child, a child she lost because of a car accident. Remember when I said at the beginning, the scariest part of this story isn't Jeff? This is what I meant. The scariest part is what he already did to Stacy before any of the stalking started. Because listen to what Stacy says next. She explains that Jeff made weird comments about wanting to see what their child would look like, about how he'd never be able to look into a child's eyes and see pieces of them both. And then, Stacy had the idea of her twin sister carrying the baby. But here's what Opie noticed. The way Stacy described it, it sounded like Jeff planted the seed. And Stacy just believed it was her own thought. Stacy said she hadn't seen Jeff that excited since the pregnancy. She said she just needed to make things normal again. And Opie tried to tell her nothing would ever be normal again, that this was the wrong path. But before she could finish, Jeff started blaring the car horn, rushing Stacy to the car, like a dog owner calling their pet back to heel. After this conversation, Opie made a decision. She was no longer willing to donate eggs. She was no longer willing to help Stacy have any child with this man. She said, and this is powerful, she would genuinely be a surrogate for Stacy as a single mom. But she would never allow that man's child to be placed inside her body. But Jeff wasn't going to accept no. And what he did next crossed every line imaginable. 1 week later, Opie posts an update, and the tone has completely shifted. It starts at the dad's house. Thursday night football. The regular family routine. Stacy walks in and asks if their dad can come outside to talk to Jeff, because Jeff wants to apologize. The dad says no. The game is on. He tells Stacy that Jeff can either wait for a commercial break or he can come inside and apologize like a man, in front of everyone who witnessed his disrespect. Stacy tries to argue. She tries to draw comparisons to other situations. And this infuriates her father. He tells her something that stops her in her tracks. I did not raise you to make yourself small and weak for a man. And whatever he did that made you think this is how to have a healthy relationship, I am sorry for failing you as a father. Stacy's eyes fill with tears. She storms out without another word. After the game, Opie walks to her car and finds this: 2 flat tires and a smashed front passenger window. He slashed her tires and broke her car window because she said no to carrying his child. Her dad handles it,
Puts spare tires on.
tows the car into his garage, tells Opie to take his other vehicle. He asks if she wants to stay the night.
She says no.
On the drive home, Opie notices a car following her. She looks more closely and recognizes the car. It has a very specific decal on it, one she's seen before. It's Jeff's mother's car. She panics, calls Mike, asks him to meet her at her place immediately. When she pulls into her driveway, the car pulls in right behind her. But luckily, Mike is already turning down the street. Jeff gets out of the car, starts walking toward Opie. Mike jumps out of his car and starts running toward them, yelling at Jeff to get away from her. And Jeff, he starts screaming, I just wanted to apologize. I just wanted to apologize. There it is again. The weaponized apology. Every single time he approaches her, it starts with I just want to apologize. He's turned the word sorry into a door-opening tool. He doesn't mean it. He uses it because society has trained us to give people a second chance when they say sorry.
And he exploits that reflex.
A scuffle breaks out between Jeff and Mike. Nothing major, but Jeff retreats to his mom's car and speeds off. He clips Mike's car on the way out. After this, Opie doesn't feel safe at her own home anymore. She packs a bag, moves in with Mike, and has barely been back since. Her dad installs a camera and floodlight at her place, but the damage is done. She doesn't feel safe there anymore. And then the stalking goes to another level. Opie starts noticing different cars following her. A red one, then a black one. Different days, different vehicles. She tries driving toward the police station. Every single time, the car turns off before she reaches it. Then she's at brunch with friends, celebrating someone's upcoming wedding, planning bridal shower details, trying to have one normal moment. The waiter comes to her and says, your husband is up front. There's an emergency. She doesn't have a husband. Thinking it's Mike, and the waiter was just confused, she walks to the front. It's Jeff. He told the restaurant staff that he was her husband, that there was an emergency. Opie tries not to make a scene. She speaks quietly, asks him to leave, or she'll call her dad. He apologizes. Again. Says everything went too far. Says he just wants to talk. They step outside to get out of the doorway because people are trying to get through. And he asks her again to reconsider. He reaches for her stomach. He reached for her stomach. Without consent. Without permission. He was visualizing her pregnant. Before any agreement. Before any conversation. He was mentally claiming ownership over a body that doesn't belong to him. Opie steps back instantly. Tells him he needs to leave. Says they can set up a time to talk with her dad present. But his stalking is an issue, and she will call the police. She turns to walk back into the restaurant. And he grabs a fistful of her hair. Don't you effing walk away from me. He put his hands on her. In public. In front of strangers.
Because she said no.
Because she wouldn't let him use her body to make his baby. Bystanders intervene. Everything happens fast. Opie says she barely remembers the details. He fled before police arrived. A report was filed. Her scalp was bleeding. She had scratches on her neck and arms. And her sister? Her own twin?
Stacy told OP.
He didn't hit you. Despite the bleeding. Despite the scratches. Despite eyewitnesses and a police report. Her twin sister looked at her injuries and said, "He didn't hit you." That right there? That tells you everything you need to know about how deep Jeff's control goes. He didn't just manipulate Stacy into wanting a surrogate. He broke her ability to see reality. But we're not even at the worst part yet. Because what Jeff did at OP's job made national-level newsworthy audacity look tame. 2 days after the restaurant assault, Jeff shows up at OP's workplace. Remember? OP is a flight attendant. She works at an airport. He walks up to the terminal desk and tells them he's her husband, and there's an emergency. The same script. Every single
time.
He uses the word husband as a key to unlock access to her. At the restaurant, husband. At the airport, husband. He's claiming her.
Publicly.
Repeatedly. To anyone who will listen. But this time, he picked the wrong location. Airport security doesn't play around. He refused to leave. And he was arrested. And, of course, he was bailed out almost immediately. And then the text messages started. Coming from random numbers.
Texting apps.
Untraceable. And what these messages said. I need to warn you. This is genuinely disturbing. He told her the vile things he would do to her. How he would get her pregnant. And she would be stuck with him for the rest of her life. He said, he knows she is the woman who will bring him a son. And if she doesn't make it easy for him, they will both die before he gives up. This is not a man who wants a family. This is not grief. This is not stress. These are the words of a predator. A man who views a woman's body as his property. And her refusal as a personal offense that justifies violence. OP blocks his number. The messages keep coming from random apps. She reports everything to police. And the police say there's no way to prove it's actually him. So until he acts on